Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This session focuses on non-linguistic communication and sociolinguistics. I hope and expect by the end of this session, you would be able to understand what are those aspects of human communication that are considered as non-linguistic communication and how do they operate in a sociolinguistic context when people communicate with each other. Well, my dear students, when it comes to the means of human communication and human interaction, language is one of the basic means of human communication. However, language is not the only means of communication. Communication involves a lot of other things that go beyond language. So, for example, involvement of movements of hand, movements of body, gestures, etc. They are all non-linguistic features of communication, but they play a very, very important role. Imagine for a minute if I turn my back towards you and then I communicate. I am sure you understand that it would have an impact on the communication process that otherwise may go on between you and me. Also think of, the hand movements that a person makes while speaking, the facial expressions of frown, of smile, of, blinking eyes, etc. These all contribute towards the meaning-making process. So, what we would say is that ways of communicating are, not limited to language. Beyond language, they include the following. For example, alongside talking, signing, writing, gesturing, using facial expressions, drawing pictures, proximity, wearing perfumes, or assuming certain postures, etc. They contribute towards the meaning-making process of when somebody tries to communicate with the other. Well, my dear students, before I move onwards, I would like to clarify here that when it comes to human communication, it can be mainly divided into three aspects: linguistic and, paralinguistic and extralinguistic. The linguistic, the first one, is the level that is purely based on the language choices, the syntax of the language, the words, how they are, what the particular vocabulary, how you choose that, etc. The second level is paralinguistics, which deals not with the language, but the performance of the language. So, it would include how do you pronounce words, what is the pitch of your voice, how loud, how low is the voice, what is the intonation, what is the accent, etc. The third level, that is the extra-linguistic level, it is also called non-linguistic level. This extra-linguistic level includes other things that are neither a part of the language that is used for communication, nor the performance of that language, that is, for example, accent or pronunciation, etc. So this extra-linguistic or non-linguistic communication is the focus of our current discussion. This non-linguistic communication may be done in a conventional way. There are societies where there are certain ways of communicating certain things. So, for example, if I nod my head like this, what would you understand? This is culturally understood as a sign of yes. All right. And when I nod my head like this, in our culture and in most of the cultures, this is a sign of no. So the first sign was a sign of agreement. This is a sign of disagreement. Now, if we talk of some other cultures, for example, when we talk of Nigerian culture, in Nigerian culture, this sign is a sign of yes. So, when somebody would say yes and would move ahead with that, along with that in Nigerian culture, what would be the movement for yes? It would be this sideway movement of the head. So, there can be misinterpretations. There can be misunderstandings when, it comes to cross-cultural communication, when these gestures are different. So, there can be conventional and spontaneous ways of, expressing certain non-linguistic communication features. There can be ways where certain non-linguistic conventional ways are used to make a meaning particular in a particular situation. However, there are certain such, ways or expressions or gestures that are universally used, and some are specified to certain cultures. So, as per human ways of communication, these spontaneous gestures are generally divided into 4 groups. What are those 4 groups? Pointing gestures, gestures that convey or reveal emotions, for example, smile, for example, frown, etc. Emphatic gestures, for example, where you stress something, for example, by, through the hand movement as I am doing it, or through nodding of your head, etc. And rhythmical gestures, the kind of things you're talking about. Along with that, your head would move in the same way, or your facial expressions would go in a rhythm with what you are talking about in a particular conversation. Gestures are not universal, and they are unique to certain language groups as well, as I have already given you the example of Nigerian culture. So, for example, sticking out tongue. This is used as teasing by Europeans, but when it comes to the Chinese culture, the meaning changes, and it is a threat. It is considered to be a threat when somebody sticks the tongue out, whereas in Indian culture, it may be a sign of danger. So gestures are not universal in so many ways. For example, in certain cultures, certain signs would be used. For example, thumbs up would be used in a certain way to create certain kind of meanings, or to convey certain kinds of feelings, or to convey certain kinds of emotions. Sometimes, thumbs up would be more like an approval of when somebody says that, okay, this is approved, or this is liked by the other person, or this is appreciated by the other person. So, as far as these non-linguistic communication processes are concerned, sometimes this non-verbal communication may occur in isolation. However, most of the times in human communities, this occurs in accordance and, in collaboration with the linguistic communication. And in fact, when we do the meaning-making process in our daily lives, actually all the 3 levels of linguistic, paralinguistic, and extra-linguistic or non-linguistic communication, all the 3 levels go side by side and support each other in the process of meaning-making.